Okay, on today's video here, we're going to talk about Taboola, Outbrain, and native advertising in general is the name of basically the classification or category of advertising, PPC advertising, that PPC ad networks like Taboola and Outbrain fall under. And this also, there's other ones out there, Rev Content, a bunch of other what I call second and third tier native advertising networks out there that we're also going to talk about in this video. But in general, everybody knows about Taboola and Outbrain, and I'm going to tell you about how to actually use it to make money. So this is there's a lack of information out there about these native ad networks, and there's also even more misunderstanding about what these PPC ad networks are for, how you make money with them, and ultimately how to use them to make money. So I'm going to tell you the strategies that I'm using for our clients here to make money with the Taboola and Outbrain, so that you can walk away from the video with an actual set of information and strategy that will work, and give you case studies and examples, I should say, of a few different types of businesses where it actually did work, what the cost per sale was coming in on, and so on and so forth. And then ultimately as well, I'm going to tell you about how people are using it wrong, so that you also obviously can stay away from that as well. But so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this video talking about that specific thing, what people are doing wrong and why they're not making money with these ads if they're going to go ahead and try it to market a product or service that they have for their business. You can, yes, by the way, use these networks for a product or a service. More so works better for products, but it could technically work for a service if it's a productized service. And it doesn't matter if you're selling something for $50,000 or $5, it could all be used the same. Now, with that said, as I'll get into in this video, there's definitely certain markets that this is going to work way better on. Mainly because the targeting options in Taboola Outbrain are not as robust as what you have like through Google Display Network, which I make most of my videos on this channel about Google Display Network, because you could hone in on literally it's not a matter of if it will work for your market. It's about how do we pick the right targeting options to narrow down far enough. That person has to be male, and they have to be 35, and they have to have $100,000 income, and they have to have searched for wedding planning in the last 30 days, and they have to have went to these 3 websites, and if they haven't done all of that stuff, and they're not that exact ilk, my ad will not show up for them. So you could pretty much, like I said, narrow it down to what you want. Whereas on Taboola Outbrain, you basically got 2-3 targeting options. For the most part, it's for products, just to keep it short before I get into this, is that most people can buy. We'll just put it that way. If it's an obscure niche business, bottom line, Google/Facebook is going to work better for you, just to let you know up front. But what is native advertising and how most people are using it out there right now? So who you see out there using it, obviously, I'll tell you, obviously with all PPC, maybe they're making money, maybe they're not. A lot of people run ads, they don't know it's not working, and then because they don't have good tracking, or their agencies that they're working with to run the ads are snowing them. So you can't go by that. And I'll tell you right off the bat that 90% of the people who actually try it out, you don't see them because it's just like the, I can't remember the saying for it, but it's like for businesses. Everybody has a success story about business. But detractors always say, well, what about the 90% who went out of business? And that's a negative half, glass full way of thinking. I just still don't like to think that way. But you should at least also know that don't go into this with rose-colored glasses. It actually takes work to get it to work. I'm going to give you the methodology, so it's up to you whether you use it or not. But a bunch of people are going to try it. They're in. Their money's gone. They're out. And because they don't have unlimited money to lose. If they did, they're just out of business. But the people that get into it that don't make any money, basically, think this is a turnkey way to make money. Like, okay, great. I have this product. I'm just going to buy ads. I'm going to send traffic at the product. I'm insta-rich. That's not going to work like that most of the 95% of the time, let's just say. It's not that. They don't use a landing page. So everybody kind of knows on Google Ads you have to use a landing page now. But for some instance, if you have an e-commerce store and you're going to promote the individual product, or maybe they'll just send traffic to the store itself, like even the homepage, which is even more idiotic. They don't think they need a landing page for these ads, and that's totally, for the most part, wrong. And they have a commercial offer that's just, hey, I sell red shoes. You want to buy my red shoes? It's like, how stupid would it be if we walked out on the street and said, red shoes, red shoes, red shoes, and just waited for somebody to buy? It's not going to compel anybody to buy. And we have tools today that make it inexpensive to make what we're doing with what we're trying to sell enticing, to build urgency, and good salespeople can build urgency and demand for a product that is not unusual, but through using creative techniques to do that. These red shoes were worn by Britney Spears, blah, blah, blah. And then instantly, not to say we lie, but you get the point. There has to be a compelling reason to get somebody to stop in their tracks from reading the article or messing around with what they're doing online at the moment, and then ultimately buy your product. It's not easy. So they're using it like they'll make it work. They're using it like they use Facebook or Google, where they're just, again, on Google you could send people directly to the product or service. They buy it or they don't buy it. This is not the case with this stuff. Specifically because how the ads are set up, in that the ad blocks for Taboola, Outbrain are a lot of times on blogs or news sites, and they're set up, people think that they're another article. So it's not, if you use a regular ad there, it's not going to compel the user to click, or if they will, it won't be at a rate which your cost per click will be low, because people don't know lower lower click-through rate on their ads mean higher cost per click, and you can only pay so much per click to make the economics of what you're doing work. So they're not using the right type of ad there, or they're trying to use Taboola, Outbrain, which is, I think, even more common, to completely replace Google and Facebook, because they couldn't make Google and Facebook work because they basically spent 20 minutes trying to set up their campaign there. It didn't work, which 90% of people are also doing that. They go to Taboola, they go spend $100, nothing happens, and then they're done with that as well. So I can tell you right off the bat, if you can't make money with Google and Facebook, you're probably not going to make money with Taboola, Outbrain 90% of the time. Now, there's plenty of opportunities where you can. So, like, for instance, if you're selling, they're more lenient. If you're selling a money-making guide or something, Taboola, Outbrain, as long as it's not too edgy, will allow that sometimes, whereas Google will. If you're selling a diet products are super, super competitive on Google. And then if you think outside the box and do the required process, like I'm going to show you here, to actually set it up the right way through Taboola, you can make it work where you can't make it on Google. So I don't want to discourage you from doing it, but for the most part, try Google and Facebook first, because it's quicker to return, generally speaking. And it never hurts to try Taboola, Outbrain to expand what you're doing. And if you can't make Google or Facebook work, you can try Taboola, Outbrain. Just make sure you go through these methods here, because this is generally every single time you need to be doing this stuff. So I got a formula here that you can follow that's easy to understand, but also it takes some work to do. That all said, so that's what people that are doing it wrong are doing. The people that are making money are pretty much doing what I'm telling you here already. And you could click on a few ads to see how things are going. You'll see a general trend of what I'm talking about here. But I've witnessed it myself. The ads can work, and this is the kind of way that it worked for us. And we have, of course, tested a bunch of things here. So this is to boil it down. If I'm going to now have to teach somebody else, this is the way that I'm going to teach it here, to follow with minimal PPC experience, to do this for yourself and make money. The way that these ads are supposed to work is like paying for a sponsored article at a news site like Forbes or a magazine like Wired. Sponsored articles, you see them all the time on different news sites. A lot of times you don't catch it, but you'll be reading an article and it'll say sponsored at the top. Well, that's a paid advertisement. If you remember the most famous example of these native sponsored articles is in a newspaper. You used to see those infrared heaters that looked like the Amish people were building it, and it looked like a news article. But that worked really well. They ran those ads for a long, long time. And so it's like in the editorial content of the newspaper. Therefore, when you're reading it, your guard is not up, so you're willing to listen. A good salesperson can always let your guard down, make you think that it's just a friendly conversation, and then progresses to a sales conversation once you've built rapport with the user. That's what these ads do. So, and I'll tell you, if you have sponsored ads that work right now for your business, Taboola Outbrain is way, way more likely to work for your type of product or service that you're selling, or just to promote that type of article itself that you've already used as a sponsored article. So with this though, the Taboola Outbrain, you're going to focus on offering value. That's the key word here, value to the users, or you're not going to do this at all, basically. So if you're going to, the person's on CNN.com, they're reading news, you say something that piques someone's interest, or in other words, taking a step back here, what are you going to say that's going to earn that person's 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes to read and click on your article? It's like, literally speaking, you have to give them a reason to do it. And the reason to do it is you're offering them some value. There's something interesting there. There's information that they think is interesting and they don't think that they can see every day. So you got to be thinking along these lines for the ads to work. Again, because click-through rate, you need a high click-through rate on your ads. You want upwards of 2 or 3% if you can get a really, really hot article, which will get your cost per click down from 75 cents a click in the US to 25 cents a click, which makes it way, way easier to make money when you're selling. So anyway, there's 2 basic ways that you do this. You can do what is like new framing of the info. So like the sponsored articles, you can have an article that kind of in an entertaining and educating manner explain the features and benefits of this product, of what makes it unique and why somebody actually should pay attention to it. And so with that though, it pretty much just is distilled down to what you do is you create what I call it just like a mock article, and you could put that on, so it could be featured, it could be earned media that you get on an actual Forbes.com, and then if that article is structured right, you could you could just take the Taboola or Outbrain ad, send people to that article. The article does a good job explaining the features and benefits of that product, what makes it look different, and they allow you a link. When you don't even need a link if the article's good enough and it looks good. It's on Forbes, and they'll probably just go to Google and search for it because it has so much trust at that point, given it's a real article in Forbes and it got picked up. You got earned media. I got an earned article that you did not pay for there. But you're trying to take that same effect, basically, of if Forbes wrote an article about your company and the product or service that you sell, you're going to write an article that looks like that, and you're going to put it on a site that you own, a news site, so that you basically don't need the article on Forbes. Now, if you can get the article on Forbes that literally will explain why your product's so hot and amazing and what it does, you could promote that first. But if you don't, you write that article to where it looks like it would be on a Forbes. You go buy yourself a news site on a marketplace, or you just create a news site. You fill it with content. Or there's a trick a lot of people use. Now, this is gray area for sure, but a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll have what looks like a news article for where they're going to send this traffic to, with the article that looks like you've been interviewed or whatever. And if you click to any other page of the site, it's going to say under maintenance. So you don't need a whole site. You could just literally have a news article that's the landing page, and then you don't need the whole other site. So it's a way to get around it. But basically, what I'm trying to convey here too is you can't send the traffic directly onto your product, your like e-commerce product page. There's not enough compelling information there for that to generally work. So you can pretty much just forget about doing that. If you have a service, just sending people onto the service page or your website where you're offering the service, it's the same thing. It's not going to work. You need what I call it a pre-lander that you're sending people to. It's a landing page that you're sending people to that gets the person interested in the product or service you have, so that that has a specific focus for entertaining and educating a person that's trying to come from a CNN or a blog, and they see your, there's the Taboola Outbrain ad pack there, and they think they're going to go read another article. So it has that page you take them to has to be set up a certain way, and you set up that page. The intended idea is to get them by the end of the article to click through to your actual product page or your service page where your service is offered. That's the general model here. Okay, so with that though, I mentioned you do a news site or what looks like a news site. You create a news article. The news article, by the way, what you do is you're going to create. Well, it's going to look like a lot of people. If you could get an influential user to use like a celebrity especially to use the product, then you could write it. What looks like you're the editor. You're the writer of the publication, and you're reviewing your company, and you talk about how that person that somebody else already trusts and knows uses the product or service, because that's going to get the person, oh, I trust them, and I want to lose weight, and they're talking about using that weight loss product, so therefore I'm going to go click this link that they reference to where you could get the product at, and I'm going to buy it. The other kind of way to do this is, it could just be what looks like EarnPress. I talked about that before. Basically, it just looks like, a news site found your company, wrote an article about it, goes through what it is that your product or service does, why it's interesting, and then has a link at the bottom to get that person to where they can order it, basically. And the third option you have there for your news article where to take people, this quote-unquote pre-lander, is you got interviewed. So as the CEO or owner, you can have where it looks like the writer of the news publication interviewed you, asked you a bunch of questions, and that could be a way. And you can test these different versions here, but that's pretty much what you do. And you set up tracking, and you try to track how many people, but you actually track how many people are clicking through to your link to go to your actual product page on your site or your service landing page where your service is offered, which, by the way, for me, if I'll have my article, I won't even send them directly onto the product page after that. Like on my e-commerce site that's like unoptimized for anything, I'll send them to another page a lot of times, which has even more selling on it. And then if they get through that page, then they go onto the e-commerce site where it's basically just, like a typical e-commerce site product page where there's basically minimal information there and they can check out. So there's almost like the article and then a really aggressive sales page and then a place where you can order it. But so this is just a side note about that. So you take them to the article and you try to get them to click through. You'll know if you've got an article that works if you can get between 7 and 15% click-through rate from the people who click through your Taboola ad or your Outbrain ad, get to the article, read it, and then click through to your product page. Now, a lot of people think, why would I pay somebody to go to this stupid news article when I can pay them to go directly to my product? Well, the idea is, and the way that it works is, and the reason why specifically is because the traffic you get that hits your product page once they read that news article is super, super qualified. It's just like if you could test this for yourself. You write a guest article on a site that allows you to do that. The people who click on your author link and go to your site will convert at like 30%. The same thing happens on a YouTube video ad too, by the way. If somebody clicks through your YouTube video ad, it converts at double digits because they're already pre-sold. So, in other words, most of the time if our campaigns have worked, we're getting 7 to 50% of people to click through to our site, and then we're looking at wanting to get 30% conversion rate to a purchase once they get to the site or opt in for the service, and then of course you still have to sell them over the phone potentially there, but they should be already a qualified sales lead that wants to buy or actually buying for about 30% of the time if this is going to work. So you could throw up a test campaign. And a lot of times, obviously, you have to optimize your Taboola Outbrain ads because there's going to be certain sites that you'll have to do negative placements. Certain sites will work, certain sites won't. So if it doesn't work right away, don't be discouraged necessarily. But if you spend a few $1,000s and you're still not making it work after taking out sites that don't work and knowing your numbers here and knowing what you can pay for the traffic and then, adjusting your bid so they're potentially lower so that the economics of your campaign won't work, well, then you probably have to write a different article and restart and get this to work. So, and the other way that you do this, going back here, you do a new product concept or demonstration page. So basically, if you have a product that's new, that is exciting, instead of the news article, the other way you go about it is you have an infomercial. Like you see those infomercials on TV. They're short 30-second infomercials, if you will, on TV during commercial breaks that people still use for different gimmicky products. You do that, and you do it on a landing page, and you can have either a video with basically that's it, it has a very well done infomercial there, and then a button that can show up 3/4 of the way through them watching it that says visit XYZ site to learn more about the product, and do it that way. Or you could have a long form landing page which breaks it into steps. This is what it is, this is how it works, this is the benefits it can give you, here's some testimonials, and then at the bottom of the page you have a link to your product or service page. So that works for something that, if we had a company that had a luxury mailbox product that worked, and it's in a new category, special thing that people with high-end houses buy, and a very visual product. And so in that case, we had a page that really well detailed went over all the features of that product, how it works, so people can say, oh yeah, I understand how this works, and then they were able to click through. Now, if you have something, like I said, like a diet product or something, with that, it's not everybody knows what diet products are, even though it might be something different. And so I would go with the article because it's more about trust and believing that it can work, if you get my point there. So, but with that, regardless of what it is, Taboola, Outbrain, unless you have something that sells for more than $300, generally speaking, but if you want to say just in general, if you can't see 1% of the market being in market for what you sell or potentially could buy what you sell, Taboola, Outbrain usually doesn't work. Why? Because you cannot, like I said at the beginning of the video, narrow down your targeting to go after people who are just interested in, luxury mailboxes or just interested in diet products. You only get a list of sites to go on, and that's it. And then if it doesn't get a high conversion rate on one site, you just eliminate it. It's very, very basic and rudimentary. So, but if you have a product that basically anybody can buy, then it doesn't matter anymore. So then you're just marketing it to everybody, and you're making as strong as case as you can to get the person to read your article that talks about like amazing, revolutionary new product melts fat away. You always see articles. That's a type of ad that works. The other thing is, like electrical companies hate him. And it just has to stop you in your tracks and get you to click and read the article. And then the article has to do all the convincing in terms of convincing that person that, okay, I think this company that sells this product, I can believe it. Then you get onto and once they should already basically want it before they get to your site. Or otherwise you're screwed up, in other words. But 1% or greater of the market, if you have that, these native ads, Taboola and Outbrain, should also work. If you get the funnel right here, the way that I'm describing it, and you have good copy, i.e. words that are on your article there, and it works better as well if you're selling something where people really have a deep-seated desire or a dream to do. Everybody wants to lose weight, and it's on their mind all the time. Everybody wants better health. People who have a specific health problem that's common, like diabetes, they really want to have the problem fixed, if you will. Or it's a problem, it's deep, it's always on their mind, and have a deep concern about. People who golf, they will do anything for a 20-yard longer drive, or to get more backspin on the ball so that they can have the ball stop on the green after they hit the ball, chip it on the green, whatever. So if it doesn't really kind of scratch that itch, if you will, I found that it doesn't work as well. So and for the most part, you either kind of need that or which if you could get both, it's the most ideal. You should still need perceived differentiator. So everybody wants the 20-yard longer drive, so you could sell a driver that claims that you can drive 20 yards longer, proven by a celebrity who bought and uses this club, or, through your mock kind of interview that explains the space age technology that you're using to get the 20-yard drive that looks like it's from an editorial source, so they initially buy into the concept and then get to your site. But that just saying that you're, the celebrity buying it, or that, that you have the space, the celebrity buying it, that's a, it's a differentiator in itself. But, saying it has space age technology is, there's always, why is this going to work? And so the more of the why you can stack up on this article, that's what gets you the high click-through rate through the landing page the way that you want. So 15% will go and ultimately be in market and demand, have now heavy demand for the product or service that you're selling. So in other words, to sum it up again, stuff that where people really, really, really wanted a solution to what problem it is your product or service fixes, that's good. And if you also have clear differentiation that other people can't offer, and that would offer a good explanation as to why it's going to be fixed, and even multiple celebrities use it, and it's space age technology, and it's been invented by some famous inventors, so on and so forth. You get the point. The more opportunity this has to actually work. So that's the general formula. You can do a infomercial style landing page, or you can do an article. And most of the time it's an article that works. Now, to sum it all up, I'm getting into the case studies here. How does this work for different types of companies? So you can see if it'll actually work for you. So I have several companies here. I talked about a couple examples already. I sold for a client a diet shake product. We had $20 to $30 cost per sale in that situation. We were talking about actual purchasing. So it went to an article, and then they went to the site and they bought. I sold an actual golf club. I talked about that already. It was a chipper, so something where you're close to the green to chip. Has a lot to offer more backspin. $40 to $50 per sale in that range. And we sold a psoriasis product. So psoriasis is a common ailment that's in 1% or more of the market. So this was good for Taboola Outbrain, or could work for Taboola Outbrain. It has the capability to work. $10 to $20 per sale using an article funnel. The golf club campaign, by the way, went to a product demonstration page, like an infomercial style page. So with that said, now in the US market, generally if you have average click-through rates, you're paying 75 cents a click. In international markets, you're paying 7 cents a click. It makes that much of a difference if you're in like a third world type of country. So, or you want to call it developing country if we're getting politically correct here. So different things will work for different countries. And like I had a situation where in South Africa we were selling burial insurance, which that's not a new concept in the US, but it was a new concept in South Africa at the time. So a article that talked about it worked well, whereas in the US it's not going to work, and specifically because the cost of the traffic is also too high for the most part. So different things will work in different areas. But there's a general kind of rule of thumb to help let clients know whether they think, or to whether or not what they're trying to sell will work with Taboola Outbrain or Outbrain is, if you have something that sells for less than $300, generally speaking, everybody wants to sell one thing to one customer one time and make money right away, so they don't need any money to really do much. Now you can kind of do that on Google, and I have a video about how to make a sale on Google with your first $100, but with this, and that also works if you have a high barrier to entry business as well. But if you're selling an everyday diet product that there's huge competition on, what you have to know is the lifetime value of the customer, and you got to be able to sell more refills or whatever of that product for that to work, given that it costs 75 cents a click. And you can't expect $5 cost per sale. It doesn't happen. So if you're under $300, most of these companies that you find doing this stuff, if you actually bought it and watch what happens after the sale, you should try it out for yourself if you're serious about this stuff. Even to buy the golf club, you will find that they're marketing another golf club, and they're hoping that you buy, some people will buy 5 items, and that'll get up the LTV up just enough to make the whole initial cost per acquisition make sense. So basically, a lot of times what people are trying to do is just break even on that initial sale, and then you got a bunch of customers that you can market to. But a lot of times also, even that doesn't even happen. You can lose money on the initial sale as long as you have your good upsell game that on the initial purchase, so that when they buy, they have one-click upsells. But also you have them that you can do remarketing to them after they've bought. You can email to them, you can direct mail to them, so you have to kind of get creative. So in each of these cases here, psoriasis product, the golf club, the diet shake, they all had, these were professional direct response marketing companies who knew how to take a list and utilize it. Not the not average person. I sell red shoes and this is all I do and I just want to sell them, and I don't want to have to think about selling to them again, or I don't want to have to take my money and then run it at a loss initially, so that it takes, after 12 months I can see my profit because I've waited for the initial or where people are coming back, which most like company like Proactive Skincare, if you remember their commercials on TV, they were running at a loss for 6 months. The customer buys the initial order. It took 6 months of reorders before that campaign was profitable, and they had to do subscription. So that's another just general idea how this stuff works. But if you're selling more than a $300 product, you can't actually make money on the initial sale. The situation with the company with the luxury mailboxes sold into the thousands of dollars. That was profitable up front, and cost per sale was between $150 to $300 somewhere. I don't know the exact amount on that one, but it was a multi-$1,000 product. It varied based upon how you had it, what version of it you got. And the situation with the funeral insurance, by the way, like I said, it was like $5 to actually generate a lead, and between those leads, it was $10-15 for a sale. But that was in the South African market, to give you another kind of idea how this can work outside the U.S. And with that, it was, from what I understand, it was profitable in the initial sale, but not much. And of course, once you in that market, still on top, so they had profitability up front actually, because they were in a market where nobody else was really doing Taboola Outbrain. You got into it kind of a little bit early. I still say it would still be almost the same economics if you offer that in South Africa today or in another similar market where the advertising is just about as cheap at under 10 cents a click, that you can sell that person not just the burial insurance but other products. So, and you can sell the leads to other people who sell to people who bought, that, which is another revenue source, by the way. You always should look into, if you don't have anything else to offer them, we'll sell their lead and go get a commission to somebody else that you can give their information to that would also probably buy another product. The professional direct response marketers out there do everything they can so that they can, it's all about being able to afford the initial traffic. And with that, you could build a multi-million-dollar scalable, leverageable campaign doing that. You just have to figure out that funnel. How do I squeeze just a little bit more out of it? And once you get over that barrier, it just works and works and works. So anyway, that's everything about Taboola Outbrain as a general overview. If you have any questions, leave me a comment down below. I have a ton of other PPC money-making strategies on this channel. If you haven't looked at any of my other videos yet, you should definitely do that as well. I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog that goes over that I've written personally, that goes step by step through campaigns like this that I've built, including Taboola Outbrain. I've got an article on that on my blog at guaranteeppc.com in which we also guarantee results for our clients. So those strategies are all proven and can use them as well. So, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this put it into context for you, Taboola Outbrain and native advertising, so that you don't fall into the 90% who burn up all their money right away and have a chance to get this working for you, for yourself as well.